Now, it's not very often I go back and do these kind of retrospective re-reviews of tools, software, plugin services, and kind of thing like that I use. But sometimes you get certain pieces of software that make a big difference in how you work. InstaWP has been one of those that's just made spinning up WordPress websites super quick and easy. Another one is Advanced Themer. So if you're a Bricks user, Advanced Themer opens up so many options to not only speed up and enhance your workflow, but also give you features that means you don't have to manually create them. Now, I'm going to show you very quickly some of the key things that I use, but there are so many options. So I would 100% recommend taking a look at the actual website itself, link in the description, and see some of the things that this can do. But let me just show you some of the key things that I think are great. Also, happy birthday, Advanced Themer. It is 1 year old today, which is absolutely crazy. Spinning up a copy of Bricks Builder with everything installed using my blueprint is super quick and easy using InstaWP. And part of this is that I have the Advanced Themer set up and installed ready to go every single time with all the configuration options that I want. Now, if you're a Bricks user, this is probably going to look familiar, but also probably a little different. There are a lot of enhancements inside here from Advanced Themer. If we take a look, for example, on the left-hand side, you can see I've got quick shortcuts to the relevant different panels inside this section. So, for example, if I want to do CSS, I don't have to go into Style, scroll down to CSS, and then start editing the CSS. I can literally just click the CSS, and I'll just open that up straight away. Really is simple. Now, these might sound like really insignificant changes, but take my word for it. Once you start getting used to these, and then you have to go back the manual way, those extra couple of clicks every single time you want to access it really do start to mount up. Again, like I say, sounds silly, but you'll see once you start using it. Same thing goes, when I go to attributes, I can click, go straight to attributes. Typography, background, layout, I can simply jump straight to them with minimal effort. Take a look on the right-hand side, you can see I've also got a selection of commonly used elements. So for example, let's say we want to add a new section in, I can click section, bang, my section with a container is inserted. Sure, I can go over to the element in the top left-hand corner and choose section from there, and bang, I can do that. But it's so much easier just to click and add a section in. Boom, one click, add it in exactly where I want it to be. And if I want to add something else in, let's say I want to add in a block, click, add my block in, add half a dozen blocks. Doesn't really matter. Just a couple of clicks, job done. Inside a block, I want to add some typography. I want to add something like an image, and I want to add in a link. Well, there you go. Everything is now inserted into that block, ready for me to start working. It really couldn't get much simpler. The beauty of this is all of these can be customized to choose exactly what you want inside this panel. The same on the left-hand side. When we select something, we can choose what options we want to make available in the left-hand side as well. So these are really simple, basic options. Let's take a look at some of the other things. Now, Advanced Themer ships with tons of options, and I don't have everything enabled inside here. I pick and choose what I want to use. But you'll notice now on the latest version, we have a menu item, AT, at the top. Click and open that up, and there's a bunch of extra options inside here. These used to be sort of across the top bar, and things got a little bit unwieldy a little quickly. But now they've been moved into their own dedicated menu system, which makes everything a little bit easier. So for example, you may want to use guides. Well, click, there's your guides all set up. Want to edit those guides? Click on the settings, and you can set exactly how many guides, columns, spacing, all those kinds of good things will all be set up directly inside here, including colors. So you may say you want to work with blue, for example. It stands out a bit better with your design. Job done. Want to come into your global class manager? Click, there's all your global classes. You can see all the ones that are set up inside here. You can search for them. You can go and you can do things like you can duplicate the class. You can copy it to clipboard. You can delete it. You can see you can have style assigned, so it'll give you some visual representation. Now, when you start to get into more complex designs and you've got lots of classes and things, there's a lot of tools inside Advanced Themer that make managing those considerably quicker and easier. You've also got bulk actions inside here, so you can see we can do things like rename, duplicate, group, lock them, unlock them, and so on. And then we've got a set of filters that allows us to go through and find exactly what we're looking for. So we may say we want to affect all the footer ones. We type in the word footer, and then that shows us all of the footer options. We can choose to rename this. We can include it. We can exclude it. We can then go and do things like set up what action we want. So we could rename these if we wanted to, add prefixes, suffixes, replace with. You kind of get the idea. Really simple, again, but I think this is the key thing to understanding what Advanced Themer is all about. is it's not something that's going to revolutionize working with Bricks Builder and give you tons of new options. It's little builder tweaks, little quality of life enhancements that means that when you want to do something that can be quite time consuming and boring, chances are Advanced Themer's got a quicker way of doing it, as you've just seen with the CSS class management options. Now, a common thing we all do when we're building websites is use either Flexbox or CSS Grid. And for a lot of people, CSS Grid, especially when you're starting out, can be a little bit fiddly, shall we say. It's not necessarily the easiest thing until you start to understand the foundations. Well, if you don't want to go through that time and effort, or you just want a visual way of building things, Advanced Themer's got you back there. I've got a container with a bunch of blocks inside. Let's set that container to be a grid. And once we do that, we have the option for our grid builder. Open that up and we now have a simple visual way of being able to start working with creating custom grids. Want to have a little bit of inspiration? Then just go and say, generate a bento grid for me. Don't like that one? Click it again, get a different option. Click it again to get a different option. Want to move things around or resize things yourself? Well, simply do just that. You can see we can resize things. We can adjust the number of columns and rows. We can say we want to have 3 columns and maybe 4 rows. And now we can easily just edit this and just build out whatever kind of styling we want. Want to make sure you use min-max? Check the option. Job done. Once we're happy, apply grid and close or apply grid and continue. You can also come in and choose to set this up on all the different breakpoints. So mobile landscape, you may have something simple like 2 columns, for example, and we'll say 5 rows. And now you can create a different layout for this one. Same thing goes when it comes to mobile portrait. How cool is that? And if you take a look at all the options on the left-hand side, you can see everything has been set up inside here using the min-max function because we chose that. We can adjust things like our spacing. So we may say, so instead of using 20 pixels, we may want to use something from our framework. So let's just click. You can see this gives us all our framework options. And this, again, is part of working with Advanced Themer. And we can say, well, we want to put spacing in there. So we'll say we want to have small spacing. Now that becomes fully scalable. Very easy. And you see anywhere we've got these little V symbols, we can access different variables that we have set up, whether we created them inside Advanced Themer or we're using something like Core Framework, ACSS, or anything like that. Bunch of options inside here. And again, you can come in if you want to. You can edit your grid. All our grid is still in place, and now we can carry on make changes directly inside here. So we've got lots of flexibility just using this. Pretty cool. Now, another little quality of life thing that I really do appreciate, you can see we've got these little tabs over on the right-hand side telling us exactly what each one of these elements actually is. So when we rename things, which you can very easily then, did I use a div? Did I use a block? Did I use a section? A contain? What did I use there? Well, simple. Just open it up. You can see it tells us exactly what any of these actually are. So at a glance, we can quickly and easily see exactly what element we've used to build out any part of our design. Again, really simple, but incredibly useful when you're working more efficiently. Now, another area when you start building more complex and comprehensive sites is forgetting how or where you've used global styles or you've used ID level class styling and those kinds of things. Well, again, we can see exactly what's going on here. You can see where we've got the little red marker on any of these. That tells us we've got some kind of styling at the ID level. So we can select it and we find that we've got something styled over here. In example, the style, we've got the link and so on, that's not been associated with our global class. We select that, it's different. So if we have a problem with this, we can right click and we can say extend classes and styles, and we can extend things inside here. Now, if you're like me, you sometimes set things up and you think, there's got to be a better way. I really should have used BEM naming for this, and I didn't. Well, we can handle that here as well. Let's say, for example, this container info is something we want to apply BEM naming. Well, we can right click on that, and we can choose the option for class converter, and then we can choose how we want to name this, what we want to actually change and use inside our BEM naming. We can choose to override and replace ID level styling. There's lots of options. We can even then set it to erase the ID level styling so we don't have to manually go in and remove those styles which are no longer needed because we'd style things at the ID level. So quick and easy that it just becomes a no-brainer. You have all these little quality of life things inside here that just speed up everything. If you make a mistake, you can undo it. Now, there is a feature inside here that I've used multiple times that has saved my bacon. How many times have you been building something and you're using a global class system or you're using a framework or something and you're trying to style something and it's just simply not being applied? So you kind of figure out, okay, there's a class or style being applied this some way, but I don't know where it is. Well, this is so quick and easy to find. We can say, for example, this button. We can right click and we can say we want to choose the style overview. This will show us exactly what styles are applied to that element, that button in this example, not only globally, but also on which device it's actually set up. So we may have different styles applied and it may be working on one, not the other. Well, we can see on desktop, we've got one set of styling. And we can see we're using the space L. And then we take a look at the mobile landscape, we're using the space S. And we can see exactly what's going on. We can see what class is being used. We can check out the hover states, the active, the focus, and so on. So if we're using pseudo classes, we can see exactly what's going on there. We can also see the CSS that's applied to that as opposed to just the bricks option. There's so many super cool little features here. Now, speaking of CSS, one of the things, if you write a lot of CSS inside the builder, it's really useful to have the options that we have as part of the superpower. So superpower CSS gives us kind of superpowers. So instead of us having to do kind of basic boring things, we can use this to do a lot of it. So add root, job done, it's in there. Want to comment selected code? Well, click and you can comment it. You want to add component selectors? You can click and do that. You want to beautify your CSS? Do that. So it'll indent it and just make it look a little bit nicer. So if you're just rushing to get everything created, it looks like an absolute garbled mess, just beautify your CSS. Show shortcut style sheet. So if you want to use any of the shortcuts, which once you start getting used to these, you'll use them a lot. You can use those underneath. And you can then also push this over to full screen so you've got no distractions. You can just get stuck into your CSS and start doing everything you need. Again, like I say, nothing groundbreaking here, but every little piece in this puzzle just makes the picture a lot nicer to look at when it comes to working with bricks. Strange analogy, but you get the picture. Pardon the pun again. Now, if you're building really dynamic websites and using lots of queries and loops and things like that, then you may find one of the newer features, which is the global query loops option. It's a mouthful. Incredibly useful. So if we open this up, you can see we can set global loops inside here and then we can save them. So we can create queries that we can reuse throughout our entire site without having to go back and do the same thing again or copy paste and things like that. It can all be saved inside the global query option and then you have access to that, which you can also go in and edit in those query loops. If you want to make changes to them, you can just edit them super quick. And to do any of that, all you need to do is open up the query option, scroll to the bottom, and you'll see global query loop and say generate global query loop. We'll click to add that in. And you can see this now takes us over to the manager for that. We can see all of the query that we have visually created now actually output as the MySQL code. So we can see exactly what's going on there. And if we want to, we can give this a name. Add a description if you want to. There's your query, which, like you say, at any point you can come back and you can change this. And then we can say save and close, and we now have created a global query. So now if we come back, you can see the global query loops option is highlighted, telling us we're using a global query. We can select that. There's our query, and we can now assign that any way we want on our entire design. It really is super quick. So let's say, for example, with a CTA, I just want to set that up as a query loop. I can choose it's a query loop. There's my global queries. I'll select that query. Job done. That's now been added to that particular element. Like I say, really is scratching the surface. Now I'm going to go crazy and I'm going to show you all the settings when it comes to advanced theme because, like I said at the beginning of the video, there are so many. But just know that whatever you want to tweak on here, it's probably available to you. And if not, Maxim's a very, very receptive developer that listens to what the community wants, takes it on board, and if it's a viable option, will add it in. A lot of the features that you see in here today, and also features that I haven't demonstrated, have been included because the community has actually requested this, or they've talked about it, and they've asked about it. Maxim's evaluated it and added it in where it actually makes sense. So if you want to find out more about Advanced Thema, you can check out these videos next. If you want to grab that lifetime deal or just buy a copy for yourself, all the links are in the description down below.